Hello and welcome to the latest episode of The Hex with John Arnold, Armand Kafai, and Daniel Robertson. Be sure to hit the like button. Y'all got like 50 likes last week, so maybe it's
Maybe it's the you
It's
thing.
because
Maybe
we
you need
told them to
to.
like to congratulate you on your engagement.
okay.
That's why I
Well,
think the likes were for you.
I can't appreciate that enough. I am lucky to be engaged to a soccer fan who she loves Denny Bouanga. He's her favorite player, so she's got some Bouanga hot takes when LAFC comes to town.
Sounds
She'll
like some
be
hot buonga takes if
yeah,
some if you know what I'm saying.
yeah, that's for sure. So yeah, but anyways, guys, thanks you for all the likes, all the watches this year. This may be our last video of 2025. Not sure, we'll see, but
Maybe we'll have one more in us. I don't know.
we might have one more in us, but y'all have really helped grow the channel for us. We are up to almost 250 subscribers now, so appreciate that. And guys, we have got 6 topics: Liga MX, MLS Hot Stove, coaching carousel, and more. So let's get into it. We told you guys for weeks, watch the Liguilla. It's going to be awesome. It was awesome. And I was on a plane home during the second leg on Sunday, unfortunately, so I had to catch up. But guys, the Liguilla second leg final, Toluca comes from 2 goals down. It goes all the way to penalty kicks. It takes 12 kicks for Toluca to win their 12th title. And John, you wrote about this for Yahoo. There's 4 grandes in Liga MX. Should there be 5? Is Toluca back-to-back champions the new grande?
I actually think there should be 6 or 7. I think that the grande idea is quite outdated. You know, we have the 4 traditional grandes, as I've called them. These are the most historic, best supported, most successful teams. There's 3 in Mexico City: Club America, Cruz Azul, and Pumas, and then there's Chivas in Guadalajara. But obviously, if you look at the table, if you look at the numbers right now, Toluca has more titles than 2 of those teams. When's the last time we remember Pumas winning anything? It's been a minute. Meanwhile, Toluca is the back-to-back champion. And even in that time period, like Atlas has been back-to-back champion. I'm not saying they should be a grande, but like there have been other teams that have been more successful. Tigres and Monterrey are always pushed out of this because of this kind of Mexico City-centric media narrative. They've been the best teams in Mexico for the last, 2 decades. If you go back to 2010, Tigres starts spending, Andre Pierre-Gignac arrives, and the final was so funny, Daniel, because I think in a lot of ways he kind of starts the play that leads to the goal that makes it 2-0, and you think this is a Hollywood script because Armand, like we thought, Tigres are going to win this. It's going to be the, kind of like the farewell for Gignac, for Javier Aquino, for Nahuel Guzman, even though some of those guys aren't retiring. Guido Pizarro, obviously part of that generation as a player and now as a manager. But Armand, it turned out the Hollywood ending was actually for Toluca and for Alexis Vega. For you, are they a grande, man? Do you think they belong in that top 4? And especially as someone who comes from a different, football world, what do you make of the idea?
I mean, I guess by like theory they should be a grande, right? But I like the fact that they're not a grande. I like the fact that it's kind of bucking the trend in, because I think at times the problem with Liga MX is that sometimes they just continue on with these like kind of traditions and stuff that like are kind of outdated. It's kind of like the passing of the guard. We're seeing it a little bit in the NBA, right?
It's like college football too.
Yeah. We're like, or like in the NBA where people are going away from, not going away from it.
Do the blue bloods still matter?
Right.
Exactly. And I like the fact that they're not a grande, but they come up with this exciting football. Their fan base, their stadium is absolutely brilliant to watch. And they're just doing something outside the box. I mean, I watched that final from start to finish, and it was just such an entertaining game. And when you have Alexis Vega, who, John, we talked about how we didn't even think he was going to play in the series. Like, we thought it'd be an emergency situation. You wrote about it, and he comes in and scores not one, but twice in the penalty spot to help to look at win their championship. So I like the fact that they're not a grande, and I don't want them to be a part of the whole grande discussion. And I agree, like, it is kind of outdated. Just let good teams be good teams.
I wrote down that to me they're the anti-grande because you mentioned their stadium. They don't, Marcel Ruiz and obviously Vega and Gallardo, but they're not traditionally supplying a lot of players to the Mexico national team. Just what's the word I'm looking for? They're not seeing the politics behind who makes the Mexico national team. many times it's beyond who's actually the best players, and it's, who's going to sell t-shirts, who's going to do different things. And Toluca does not traditionally supply those players. And it seems like all that matters is the football. Okay, they did do those like NFL style jerseys, which
did you see
cool.
they actually
and they sent jerseys to the
jerseys
Niners.
to 49ers.
Yeah.
Right. That was kind of the first time they did that, right? They aren't a club like that's always thinking about how are we marketing to America? How are we doing all these different things? They're just concerned with the football.
Well,
and they've won 2 in a row.
They're owned locally by an 85-year-old man whose dad owned the team as well. I mean, it's like it's kind of more of a historical, rather than a company or a public equity firm, etc. It's like they're flashing. Alexis Vega, after both titles now, has gone into the stands because he's older. Yeah. He's 85. He's gone and taken the trophy to the director's box to let the owner, grab it, celebrate, and then they go back down to the field and celebrate kind of in the more traditional way. So, I mean, I think like that's definitely part of it. And the other thing, Daniel, that's interesting, you mentioned they're not kind of a pipeline for Mexico national team players. You know what? They're actually known for great foreigners. When you look at now Paulinho, who could be back in the Portugal picture, 3 Liga MX scoring titles. You look at Cardoso, probably the best foreign player ever, even better than Gignac, and then Sinha, who was naturalized Brazilian, became Mexican, who was still involved in the sporting structure. So those are kind of they're among the 3 most legendary players on that team. So it's a great point that it's not exactly an L3 pipeline, and yet like some of the players that are doing it are totally Mexican and came up in the Toluca system.
I do got to say one other thing too, as I saw Alexis Vega, by the way, it was funny watching the extended 15-minute highlights. The game is crazy when the extended highlights don't have all the penalty kicks in it. Like they took extended highlights of the penalty kick shootout. It was 24 minutes 25. Long.
Yeah, I was about to say. I was trying to find a brief moment in the penalty shootout for a TikTok that people can check out or Instagram video or whatever, and I couldn't find. I was just like, I've watched this like 3 times.
And John, the thing is, I know the exact moment you're talking about. You're talking about when Gignac went to Paulinho. During the shootout, they were both subbed out, and they were kind of having a laugh, kind of a quick little chat. Which it was actually was a really cool moment. But again, you couldn't find it because so much went on throughout the match.
Well, there's a lot of respect between the 2 clubs too. There was respect between the goalkeepers, but I thought it was funny. And John, tell me if I'm totally off sides on this, but when I was watching Alexis Vega step up to take the penalty kicks, he's clearly out of shape right now. He knows, look, I need to play 20 minutes. Like I'm not coming in here, and then I'm in off season again. He reminded me a little bit of Cuauhtemoc Blanco. There's just a little bit there's a little bit of Cuauhtemoc Blanco vibes to Alexis Vega. Like he hasn't scored in the World Cup. Maybe he will next summer. Who knows? But I kind of see him as this generation's Cuauhtemoc a little bit.
Just because he's stumpy as well. Like he's kind
of kind of moody.
Loves a party for sure.
Exactly.
I think, Vega, it's so interesting because I wrote and I've said that he's leaned into this kind of party boy reputation that he earned at Chivas when he wasn't good. He was out of shape. He wasn't playing well, and he was in the nightclub more than he was in the, on the practice ground. So it seemed. But now, after every title, he's with his wife, his daughter, and, holding the trophy and saying, I worked really hard for this. And you can see it on the field, right? I think, Cuauhtemoc, that's a fun comparison. I can see where that's coming from and beyond just the hunched shoulders.
All right, so fully admit, guys, this is a little clickbaity, and John zooms in on his camera, right?
What is happening?
I don't know.
Zoomed out for a second, too.
That's
I know.
Cool. I like
was wild.
It. So there's going to be a little clickbaity, but we have the champion of MLS, Inter Miami. We have the champion of Liga MX, which we don't even need to parse between the Apertura and Clausura. There's one champion of Mexico this year. It's Toluca. So how are they going to do the Campeón or the Mexican Campeón de Campeones, by the way?
You're a little off, man. It's if they win the Clausura. The problem was
halfway
so
off.
Apertura, Clausura. So if Toluca wins this next tournament, then what they typically do is pick it. Like they bring in the second place team, or if someone wins the CONCACAF Champions Cup, because America obviously did it as well.
Okay, well, the champion of 2025 in Mexico is Toluca. So who would win, Armand, if they played, let's say next week, everyone's healthy, let's say Vegas healthy, who wins between Toluca and Inter Miami for the champion of Mexico and the United States?
I feel like if I say Toluca, the commenters are going to come after me and just be like, hey, man, like, you already said that. You already said about Son. You said all these things.
Say it.
So I'm going to go with Miami. I don't want them to come after me. I want to be respectful to our audience. But no, in reality, I think Toluca and Miami would be actually a hilariously fun game of football to watch because of the way both teams play. Seems like Toluca really plays with sometimes an almost reckless abandon to a degree.
Of course.
I mean, when we were watching, I mean, obviously Toluca was pushing to get a goal late on, but they were leaving a lot of opportunities for Tigres to really pounce on and attack, John. And for me, I think that's what Miami wants. The Miami wants like those spaces to operate in, and I don't think Toluca is going to be one of those teams that is going to be like, we're going to sit back, be cautious of Messi. No, they're going to play their style. They're going to play their style and play it, with like.
We saw it against LA Galaxy. We saw it in Campeón de Campeones.
Yes, exactly.
Galaxy.
They're going to play exactly the way that they want to play. And I think for me, Miami would have, if we're going to say Allende's in there, I know Allende's kind of up in the air. And if they're not starting Suarez, I think
Suarez
Miami
is back, baby.
Yeah. I know. Can you believe Grandpa's back? Like, but like,
no,
I think that they'll be able to capitalize on those kind of transition moments through Messi and the younger players that they've kind of shifted to in the playoff run.
I think it's funny that in some ways they're mere teams. Toluca doesn't know who its goalkeeper is. Yeah. Inter Miami settled on Rocco Rios Novo, but like it took them a long time to get there, and I don't think he's going to be back. Left back, old, good, solid, safe, but gets forward a lot. Jesus Gallardo, Jordi Alba. Center back, that one center back that's kind of decent but can be a wild card from Uruguay. You got Falcon and Pereira. So I think it's interesting you have some mirror. I'm not going to call Marcel Ruiz the Mexican Busquets. But or the Mexican De Paul. I think he maybe is more in that frame. A difference is forward, where like Paulinho finishes chances, and I think that could make a difference. If you say Vega, I think Vega comes up well short of Messi, even with how good he's been. But I think he's a chance creator, and I think that Toluca has that finisher that maybe Inter Miami doesn't exactly have right now, with Suarez being out of form and old and struggling. And Silvetti, I think, still being a bit of a question mark. Yeah, he had a great playoffs. Yes, I think he'll adapt well. And of course, why wouldn't you if you have Lionel Messi setting you up with opportunities? But I think I would give Toluca the slight edge right now. We might see this game, right? Like we might see what this looks like. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. And yeah, I think for me, I would give Toluca the slight edge as well, just because of their team camaraderie. They just know how to win. I think that Inter Miami has a higher ceiling than Toluca, perhaps. Obviously, when you have Lionel Messi, you're going to have a higher ceiling. But still, going back to that MLS Cup, Vancouver made one key mistake that won the game for Inter Miami. I think Toluca, their level in general is higher than Inter Miami's at this point. But yeah, shoot, I would love to see that game. I would say 3-2 Toluca, just like the Campeón de Campeones. But hey, we might see it again next year. So, the CONCACAF Champions Cup draw is out, boys. It is already time to look towards 2026. The first games are like 6 weeks away? February 3rd. The CONCACAF Champions Cup starts.
Let me take a nap, bro.
Don't tell me that right now. John needs to sleep for a little while, guys. I just got back from vacation, so I'm raring to go, but John needs some sleep. The draw, though, is pretty fascinating. Some big first-round matchups, Pumas versus San Diego FC. That's a really nice one. We've got Philadelphia on a collision course with Club America in the second round. But, guys, as you're looking at this, who do you see as the favorite right now on Tuesday, December 16th? What are we looking at as your CONCACAF Champions Cup favorite, John?
Well, first of all, I think that part of the reason this is so intriguing is because everyone is going for it. I think for a long time we said, how can the CONCACAF Champions Cup become relevant? Why are people not into it? What's happening? And now as you see MLS teams continue to get better and better, to spend more and more, to bring in bigger and bigger stars, and now to prioritize this tournament, I think Jorge Mas says after Miami lifts MLS Cup, now we're going for CONCACAF. What did Antonio Mohamed, the manager of Toluca, say after they win this? Hey, we're back-to-back trophy winners in Mexico. Now we're going for the CONCACAF Champions Cup. What did America say after becoming back-to-back-to-back champions? They said, we've done it in the league. We want to win it again, but we really want an international trophy. Tigres, one international trophy, want to add more international trophies to their cabinet. So I just think that the fact that so many teams are prioritizing this makes this a more interesting discussion because teams care. The one other factor that'll make this the most exciting CONCACAF Champions Cup ever, Mexican teams will not have their international players, their seleccionados, for the Liguilla this tournament. They're going to release, at least for the Mexico team, they're going to release those players when the Liguilla starts. So if you're Toluca, if you're America, if you're Cruz Azul, if you're Pumas, why would you not prioritize the tournament where you're going to have your best players the entire run? So I think the fact that is in play, for me, makes it more compelling. But I think Inter Miami is the favorite.
Well, and
I don't think that Toluca is the favorite because I think there's a lot of questions about what they do in international play, about how Mohamed has managed the team in these types of competitions. They're clearly good enough to win the league, and yet their draw to playing Pumas or San Diego FC in their first series compared to Inter Miami's, where they'll probably get Nashville SC again, a series we've seen several times, I think just makes it easier. It's an easier path for Inter Miami. And a lot of the MLS teams, the LA teams got the best draw in the whole thing.
Well, and remember too, something that adds to this as well. We saw the Club World Cup last summer, and I think now, if you're Inter Miami, if you're Toluca, if you're Club America, if you can win this, and we're going to be in the Club World Cup 3 years from now, that's huge, right? Like that changes everything. And I think it changes everything for Libertadores. I think it changes a lot for a lot of these different competitions. I've got to go with LAFC right now as I am looking at this, because you just have to look at the draw. Toluca's draw is interesting. They've got a tough round of 16. However, if they can get past that, then it's the Galaxy. Like, their road to the final is maybe a little bit easier. But LAFC, to get to the round of 16, they've got to beat Real España, okay, and Alajuelense, and then either Monterrey or Cruz Azul, which they've beaten teams of that caliber before. And with Sun, a full off season, I really like LAFC to get to the semifinals, and then you kind of roll the dice. LAFC Toluca semifinal, boy, that would be mouth-watering. Armand, what are you kind of looking at here?
I cannot believe how favorable of a draw the Galaxy got.
Yeah,
for a team
the Galaxy got an amazing draw, man.
For a team that was absolutely garbage during the MLS season, and then made that great Leagues Cup run to earn this Champions Cup spot. Like, we're gonna talk about that a little bit more with the big move they made later on, but they might be set up for I don't want to take anyone lightly, but I mean, to have your seeded opponent be Mount Pleasant is exactly what you would want, like, from a draw like that. I'm not saying that they're the favorite, but they have a pathway to get to, pretty far on the tournament with how their draw is. I'm with John. I think Miami prioritizing this tournament is going to be huge. I think that, it seems like they added Rayon to their team, and I don't think it's a designated player. So I think that they're actually going to get another piece into there as well that, and we don't know who's it going to be.
I think they're upgrading, the rumors are they're upgrading at right back. They've got the guy from Racing.
Exactly.
So if they upgrade their left back and upgrade their right back and upgrade their goalkeeper and add a DP, then you're looking at a team that's going to be very impressive. And I think they want to open that stadium. Well, they're going to do it in league play, but if they could host the CONCACAF Champions Cup final, that'd be pretty nice.
Well, in a quarterfinal against Club America, that would be
we'll see where that is. You know what, man? I don't think America is going to be allowed to take possession of the Azteca or to use the Azteca, even though it's going to be finished in March.
Oh, yeah, because of FIFA.
I thought you were going to say, I don't think Club America is going to get past the Union, and I was going to say, ooh, okay.
That is not what I think. That is not what I think. Although, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's not, America's they need to have a good offseason as well. They need to buy this offseason. I think they definitely are a team that's also in transition. Dan, who's your favorite is LAFC?
Yeah, I'm going to go with LAFC just because
we're all picking MLS teams.
Yeah, I guess so, but I mean,
it's the pathways. To be honest with you, made
totally.
less about the team than the pathways.
The draw was great for the LA teams, the Galaxy for sure. So many question marks around them, but both the LA, could we have a Tráfico semifinal? LAFC would have to get past a really tough Mexican team. The Galaxy would have to get past Toluca, but it's definitely not outside the realm of possibility.
John, can I ask you something? Just
no.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, not even on top of Champions Cup, but how did this happen to where, like, these players are getting released? I know obviously the schedule lined up the way it is, but how do the Mexican teams allow that for, like, an almost diminished product for Liguilla?
Because the thing is that, like, Mexican clubs, partly because the owners have way too much say and power over what's happening with the national team, Javier Aguirre goes to those owners. Like, literally, he's probably pressing the flesh and being like, hey, I need these guys released. It's like, so it's seen as patriotic. It's seen as your national duty to get these players out as soon as possible. If Aguirre wants them by this date, you got to release them. And so the choices were either start the tournament now,
right,
or do what they're doing.
The MLS hot stove is heating up as teams make their moves before. No one does anything in MLS, by the way, around the holidays, like at all. Everyone goes off. The club offices closed. It's the best thing about working for an MLS team is your office is closed from Monday before Christmas to Monday after New Year. No one wants to be in the office. So the teams are making their moves right now. And we want to talk about, for each of us, which move that an MLS team has made, player personnel-wise, in the last week or two, has been the most important so far. Armand, let's start with you. I think we know where you're going.
I kind of referenced in the last segment, but it's Jacob Glesnes going to the Galaxy. I mean, what a move for the Galaxy. What a win now move for them to acquire Glesnes, who is definitely an upgrade. Look, the Achilles heel of the Galaxy is their defense. It's constantly been their defense. They allowed, I think, the fourth most expected goals last year. They allowed the seventh most when they won MLS Cup. Their defense has leaks, and they've been trying to figure it out. And last year we talked about how they were in cap hell. They fixed it up quite a bit relative to what it was. And now you acquire Glesnes, who is a proven MLS defender, who is
been to MLS Cup,
3-time best 11, MLS Cup finalist, 2-time All-Star. You can talk about all the accolades. He is an upgrade for the Galaxy. But I want to talk about the Union side of things, Daniel, which I think is really interesting. The Union, and this is going to be a really weird analogy. I made it on my newsletter. They're kind
Footy
of
Analytics Musings, by the way, on Substack.
Yes. Please click. Please read.
You need to start linking to those. I'll start linking to your stuff
link it in the description.
Yes.
But
yeah,
the Union are kind of shaping up to be what FC Dallas was in that 2015-20. I'm not saying as good.
This is a weird deep cut. The Union are shaping up to FC Dallas 10 years ago.
But look at their academy, and they're trying to clear space for that academy to grow. We saw Kevin Sullivan. They have a center back who's 6'7", who won MLS Next Pro Defender of the Year in Neil. I hate you guys. And Neil Pierre. And I've seen him play in person, guys. He is absolutely massive, but really good technically on the ball. I know they acquired another U22 center back, but this opens up a pathway for their academy, which I would probably argue is up there, probably one of the best in MLS at the moment, to get more minutes. And then not only that, but they're also a low-spending team. We're seeing kind of them operate, again, just very low salaries. This is before in Dallas. When Dallas bought Velasco, they really transitioned over to out of this. But Philadelphia has really low costs. They have low spending. And whenever these players kind of hit their peak, they're like, okay, we'll sell you to a team that really wants him. We'll take that money and reinvest it somewhere else or acquire younger players, etc. I think clearing the pathway for the Union is really interesting, especially after their really supporting Shield winning year. But this is kind of the reality of where they are in MLS, John.
Yeah, totally. I'm going to go for a team that I think is going to be more interested in trying to knock the Union off their perch. I'm going to talk about Carlos C. Mi Coronel going to Orlando City. The goalkeeper sort of carousel is interesting to me in MLS, where we don't know what Dane St. Clair's future is. We know Pedro Gaese is leaving Orlando. And they could have done a lot of different things there, but instead of kind of going into the market for an unproven goalkeeper or a goalkeeper who might not work in MLS, they've got a proven starter who's 6 years younger, kind of not Gaese part 2 in this play style necessarily, but like a starter who's going to be highly motivated because his team is going to the World Cup, who's been around MLS for several years. And again, just a younger player. I think Orlando, Rodrigo Schlegel goes to Atlas. There's a lot of transition that's going to be happening around the club. We saw Profe Bazan is leaving. There's going to be other things that are happening. This is a big year for Orlando, right? It's a big year for Oscar Pareja. I think that the people are starting to run out of patience with kind of the results that they've gotten so far. And Coronel, to me, is a perfect backstop for this team who can sort of be a spiritual successor to Gaese and I think give a little bit more, a higher ceiling, partly because he's a younger player, but also someone who knows the league well. To me, it's a bit of a sign that, hey, even though there's going to be movement and transition here, this is still a team that's going to be aiming to knock Philly off its perch, to win trophies, and to deliver on some of the promise that they've showed in the last couple of years that they haven't totally been able to kind of capitalize on, to deliver on.
Yeah, I feel like Orlando needs some new voices in that locker room. Like they need some new leadership because the cycle feels like it's very close to ending in Orlando. It's been a very successful cycle. They've been really good. Of course, Oscar's still missing that MLS Cup. I'm taking another player from the Red Bulls who they must have had some talent, even though they were so bad this year that other teams want their players. Guys, there's an under-the-radar move announced today by Minnesota United. They paid about $500,000 of GAM for Peter Stroud, who was a starting midfielder for the Red Bulls, homegrown player, 22 years old, like young guy, solid young midfielder. We see Minnesota do this where they get these assets from other MLS teams, and where they've really struggled a little bit was a little bit of extra bite in midfield. They have Will Trapp, who's undersized. You know, they've had him for a while. He was decent, but you look at a guy, and I get why they did the deal. I don't know that he apparently has 2 option years left. New York kept some sell-on fee for this. I think there's some thought that Stroud will be transferred out at some point. But look, if you're paying $500,000 GAM for a guy who's going to be transferred out for money at some point, worst case scenario, you're coming out ahead probably in the whole move, which I'm sure Armand, Mr. Analytics boy and Mr. Front Office money guy probably likes the sound of that. But you look at a guy like Stroud, again, he was like 3rd or 4th most minutes played for the Red Bulls, who weren't amazing, but you look at a 22-year-old guy who is one of the top minutes guys in the league who raises their level. That's a plug-and-play option, Armand, in midfield. I feel like this could be an under-the-radar move for them.
And he fits into what the system that Minnesota wants,
exactly.
Right? You like, again, when you get guys that just transfer so easily, it's really nice, like especially for Minnesota, who just wants those pieces to fit. When you said Red Bull, I was a little worried. I thought you were going to talk about how San Diego loaned Red Bull some allocation money for this year, and then they're going to pay them back.
I thought you were going to talk about Lewis Morgan. I thought that's where you're going. I mean, he fits in. I think he fits in well in San Diego as well. In San Diego, you know, in their brief history, we've got them kind of down as a team that has a reputation of picking up someone who
it's a low risk move
if he stays healthy.
Totally.
If he stays healthy, but
sure,
that's
sure.
I mean that's a big question. But yeah, again, I like Stroud. I think that like anytime you can find a guy that he learned the league while he was at another team and then he goes to your team to start, nice option. The coaching carousel is definitely going strong as well for MLS. 4 coaches added in the last week and a half as John is doing his carousel. That was really, really solid, actually. 3 coaches under the age of 40, making me feel quite old right now. And I think my dream of coaching an MLS team is probably not going to happen. But guys, best coaching addition so far. I'm going to start us out on this one because I haven't started us out yet. So let me go to, I just talked about a move that Minnesota made that we like. And I think the Rapids copied what Minnesota did with Eric Ramsey, who was I think he was 34 when they hired him. The Rapids looked to England as well, and they took a longtime assistant, Matt Wells, who had worked for Big Ange at Tottenham. He was currently under Thomas Frank, also obviously at Tottenham, but he's been around a little bit. He worked for Scott Parker at Fulham. One of those longtime assistants, young guy, young prodigy. I think I saw he got his pro license when he was like 21 years old, which is pretty impressive. So I think he's a great hire for the Rapids because you have the technical guys in the front office who know what they're doing, who know the league, who know all the mechanisms. Just signed Paxton Aronson. I got some faces on that. I'm not saying necessarily they're making great moves, but they do understand how MLS works very well. But was Robin Fraser the best coach, though? That's a different question. So now they bring in the young prodigy coach. I think it could be a really nice fit there.
Especially because Colorado is like a team that isn't really a destination team in MLS.
You're gonna have to, if you want to really.
You're gonna have to like do some weird reaching and stuff like that, and they had to move off Armis, who it was just.
Sorry, I said Fraser. I meant Armis.
Yeah,
but they
Armis,
went from Fraser to Armis, who are basically 2 MLS guys.
I do like that they're sort of trying something different. I wouldn't use the word retread, but whoa. That was weird. I wouldn't use the word retread, but I think that it is a different profile. It is what worked for Minnesota. I'm not ready to call a guy I haven't seen coach a single minute a prodigy, but I appreciate them trying something different after their kind of previous 2 things didn't work. But I'm in wait and see mode, partly because I don't really know anything about this guy. Hey, when you tell me Matt Wells, I think of the former Texas Tech football coach, and let me tell you, you don't want him running things.
You don't, but the blueprint worked for Minnesota. Armand, what do you think? I know where you're going here, but I can't wait to hear why.
Okay, it's Michael Bradley. Michael Bradley, I thought was like when he was a player, you always knew he was a smart guy. I know his if you look at his career and you kind of get rid of what happened in 2018, like the 2017 for qualification for 2018, you're looking at a guy which is a part of his legacy, but a player that's played all across the world. He also is just a really smart player. He's always a guy that you're like, he's a smart player. He's a coach's son. He's a coach's son. He's Bob Bradley. He's Bob Bradley's kid.
First one in the building, last one to leave.
Lunch pail.
Just a real lunch pail guy.
But when you look at Michael Bradley, and I have someone that knows someone that works with the Red Bulls. He said when Michael Bradley came in, he was one of the most impressive coaches he's worked with, just because he knows how to connect with people, and that's something that I think the Red Bulls have been missing with a lot of their former coaches. Look, I don't think Stuber was really a super nice guy. I don't think Sandro Schwartz was also a super nice guy either. But when you get a guy that understands or is young, understands how to connect with these people, and also he came into his first job and took Red Bull 2 to win the MLS Next Pro Championship. Yeah. And they play a style of soccer. I've watched a couple of their games.
We watched the final.
And we watched the final, actually, hilariously enough. That was really, against Colorado, since we're on topic of them, that was really great. And I don't think it's too early for Michael Bradley. He's had experience in coaching environments. You have to give him a little bit more time. And I feel like his style of play is actually a little bit anti-Red Bull. So I'm interested to see how it's going to tweak from there.
I hope he's given time, because I think the Red Bulls were between a rock and a hard place on this one. Would they like Michael Bradley to coach their second team for one more year? Probably. If they didn't hire him this offseason, would he be there next year? Hell no. So I think they probably had to go a little bit early on this. They probably wanted to wait another year. I hope they give him a lot of time, because like you said, Armand, I think he is a guy that could be a potential future national team coach. And I hope they give him time and let him build the roster, John.
I mean, I think he's going to be great, but man, we're handing out prodigy. We're handing out future national team coach. I'm ready to see these guys coach one match.
But for 3 MLS teams to hire coaches now under the age of 40, and obviously,
I think it's the way the wind is blowing overall, right? Yeah. And I think if you're an MLS team, we talk about being in a cap league, Armand, you know this better than anyone. Where can you get the advantage? Where can you make the difference? It's with those DP signings and the TAM and how you choose your model. And then it's your front office, right? And after that, it's your coaching staff. And I think if you have the right head coach,
staff is probably
maybe before front office. What I'm saying with front office is you're allowed. I mean, you could hire 28 different guys to do sports science if you want to, which obviously gives you, in theory, an advantage over your neighbor who only did 2 or whatever. But I think, that's one of the inefficiencies you can exploit. I think Bradley has a really, really bright future. We saw when he was a player. Armand, you kind of apologize. 2018. Dude, forget that. He was a fantastic player. He had a great career. He's an amazing communicator when he's talking to the press. And I think that translates well to what you're saying. It's a different vibe and a different feel coming into the locker room. I back him for success. Honestly, pretty instantly. We've seen young coaches come in and do this. Bradley, instead of a Pirlo model or something, he took time to work with younger players. He took time to kind of come up.
He was in Norway for a bit too at SUBSTACK with Bob. Like, he has gone through, and
that's what I'm saying. He's had the formation.
He's had the form. Like I said, the build to be a coach, and to come in the middle of the Red Bulls year, and then have this Red Bull 2 year, and then have this team and then lead them to a championship. That's not easy. And it's not like the Red Bulls team was insanely great. They play a lot of barn burners. They're winning games like 7-4, 7-3, etc. It was a pretty crazy. But to get that team kind of into a track to win the MLS Next Pro Championship, I don't think is anything that should be diminished.
Yeah, I would pick Bradley too, but I want to give a mention to Mark Dos Santos, who's not under 40 and who has been a head coach in the league before. He also coached, remember the San Francisco Deltas? God rest their soul. I think there's something to be said. We're talking about shifting direction, but LAFC doesn't need to shift direction. They could have made a big home run hire. I think it's a team that has a lot of attraction. I'm sure they got a lot of great resumes across the desk when Steve Cherundolo said he was stepping down. I think Mark Dos Santos will have learned from what didn't go right in Vancouver last time around, and I think he will have learned from being next to Steve Cherundolo for several years. For me, the fact that you're keeping that continuity, not rocking the boat, I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. I know you're down on the move, Daniel. I'm ready to hear you say why. But for me, the fact that this is a guy who knows the club, knows the team, he has seen how Cherundolo manages the egos, manages all the different things that can come with having Son, having Bouanga, having international players, and trying to get over the hump and win another trophy. To me, it's an interesting hire. I do wonder if his leash, to put it bluntly, will be a little shorter than some of the other coaches in the league because he's had a chance before, and there are going to be great guys who are knocking on that door saying, I'm willing to move to LA and manage Sun.
Where I am nervous about this move for LAFC is you look at the caliber of players that LAFC signs and the caliber of players they go after. You need a manager who has that playing experience and has some cachet in the room. Now, I'm not saying Son is going to give any issues, but I think
Jose Mourinho,
plenty of other. Well,
Andre Villas-Boas.
Yeah, why not? I mean, go well.
They have no playing experience.
I see what you're saying, but they also had immediate success as managers. Marc Dos Santos has been fired.
He did too with the San Francisco Deltas, buddy.
right, yeah. And the Smoke Park Rangers. But
I'll interrupt you. Fun fact, though. You can still see the San Francisco Deltas jersey display at the National Soccer Hall of Fame because they're the last ever NASL champions.
Wow, that is
still there.
That is we'll have to take a pilgrimage over there to check it out. The Scooters Coffee Bowl is gone from Toyota Stadium this year, so we will not be going back to Toyota Stadium in 2025. But I just worry they're going to keep targeting players and keep targeting big names. I have no doubt that Marc Dos Santos would probably be a better MLS manager again. But LAFC is a team that wants to win CONCACAF Champions Cup. Okay, this is a guy that when he's your assistant, you're doing awesome. When he is your manager, he's going to be looking over his shoulder the entire time, which means his players are going to be wondering, is this guy even going to be managing us in 6 months? We'll see.
But you picked them as your CCC favorites.
It was really interesting at the end of the Toluca Liguilla win. They had the TUDN guys on the pitch after the game. They pull manager Turco Mohamed over. John, he didn't want to talk to them because David, I'm calling him Mexican Skip Bayless Faitelson. Is he Mexican or is he Argentine?
He's Mexican.
Okay. The Mexican Skip Bayless is a guy named David Faitelson. And he talked a bunch of crap on Mohamed and his decision for his goalkeeper. And John, he was really mad about that. So am I getting this story? I'm getting this pretty correct,
That's right.
And
well, I mean, after the game, they bring him over as they always do, and he was basically like, if Faitelson isn't here to fight me, I don't want to talk to you guys.
I got to respect that energy.
And then after the game, he was leaving, and he saw him, and they were face to face. I mean, he was really mad.
Hey, look, stand on business. I like it. So we want to know, has there been a comment that someone else made that caused you to boycott, or someone's gotten mad at you? A story about that. And we've all been journalists. Obviously, some of us are still journalists, and we've all written, right? And I'm going to tell you guys real quick my first story on this. So this was back over 10 years ago, the first time I got someone really mad at me. And it was Fernando Clavijo. He got really mad at me. I'm sure all of us have had Fernando mad at him at some point. Armand, you might be a little bit too young to have gotten a lecture from Fernando. Okay, he's shaking his head. I'm sure we've all had Fernando come up and talk to us at some point. I was reporting on George John's contract situation, and that. George had his agent was a guy named Ted Philippakis, who now works in Greece and was the sporting director for a couple of Serie A clubs for a while. I think Venezia. Really, one of the most interesting men in the world type of guys. Ted had given me some information about. And I didn't really know the game at this point. I was still young, and I didn't quite understand the way that agents work and how agents want you to get their name out in the press. And I just thought it was so cool that I had some inside information that I needed to report, and I was still working independently, and I put that out there. And I'm not saying it was wrong, but I didn't quite understand that I was being played a little bit on this to get a better contract for George. And I had Fernando call me up and threaten to have me basically blacklisted from MLS soccer, and we were best friends after a few hours. It was fine, but that was the first oh shit moment for me. Like, the things I'm writing and the things I'm doing, I can be manipulated, and I really didn't want to make people mad as I was trying to grow in the industry. Armand, have you had a situation like that?
I had one. I think John remembers it because this is around time where John and I had first really met when I was writing about FC Dallas. It was with Reggie Cannon. Reggie Cannon, I have no idea what happened here, but I would often, because I was young back then, keep in mind I was like 18, 19, I was the same age as the homegrowns FC Dallas as they were coming up. Chris Richards, Paxton Pomacall, Reggie Cannon, Edwin Cerrillo. I would go Brandon Cervania. They would all be comfortable talking to me because we're the same age, and I wouldn't bother them or anything. I just ask them a couple questions and have them move on. So I'd always go to Reggie because Reggie's a really smart, intelligent guy with his answers. He's really thoughtful with what he talks about. Ja'Cory Hayes, another one, John's enemy. But
I don't know that story, but
yeah, well,
keep
that one's
going.
the one you should mention, John. That's the one you should mention. But one day I went up to go interview Reggie, and the FC Dallas PR people say, "Hey, you can't interview him." And I was like, "Why? What did I do? Normally don't write opinionated things about the club at all. To be honest with you, I didn't at the time. And
That's
when I
changed.
yeah, and they were like, "Yeah, we don't know. We're gonna figure it out." But Reggie says that you said some things about him. You wrote some things about him and the U.S. national team or something. I was like, I don't think I wrote anything about him, like to the degree. And they were he was mad. Like he saw me and just like he gave me a look, and I was like, well, what the hell did I do to this guy? I went and I spoke to the FC Dallas PR like a few days later. And I was like, hey, did you guys figure out what happened? They said we went through our articles. We couldn't find anything. So like he just randomly got mad at me or misread something completely, and he was absolutely livid about something. I'd never talked to him again after that. Our relationship was completely frayed after that.
To be fair,
I don't know what I did.
get mad at you too, Armand, for random reasons that probably aren't your fault.
Say a lot of times, man, it's like the outlet. Like, I would write something and then Goal would frame it a certain way on social media, and then you're hearing from the press
I don't know
officer,
what I
you're
did,
hearing
man,
from
but,
the
like,
player. But sometimes that could be it. I'll tell the Ja'Cory one. I wasn't gonna name him, but yeah, I was writing a story about Peter Lucine actually, about how he's at the time the FC Dallas assistant and very intense. And I wanted to convey that intensity because that's what I kept hearing, this competitive intensity. Winning was all that mattered. And he said, Ja'Cory told me this great quote, first quote I used in the article. He said something to the effect of, even if he beats you at ping pong, if you beat him at ping pong, he's an asshole to you. Mm-hmm. And then I said something like, the next line was sort of like, but the players know it's because of love, or something like that. Sort of like transitioning from, but I think that either Peter read only the first line or Ja'Cory only read the first line, or however it got back to Ja'Cory in my DMs saying, how dare you write this? I would never say something like that. Of course, I record every interview, so like he did say that. The framing matters, etc., but I still maintain that was probably, and I think we never really talked it out, but I think at this point it's all definitely water under the bridge. But these things can happen. Mohamed and Faitelson are both a bit more bombastic. Faitelson has been kind of digging in, saying, "Oh, this is the coach of the Mexican champion," really, like blah blah blah. And I do think it's, in some ways, again, like it's a bit petty sometimes to boycott an outlet, because a lot of times, especially something as big as like TUDN, like Televisa, one of the biggest networks in the country, one of the two biggest networks in the country, one of the biggest stations in the Americas, it's like, yeah, the guy on field trying to have the interview with you saying congratulations has no control over what David Faitelson is saying during his pregame segment. But yeah, we've all had it happen. I think the biggest, like, quote unquote lesson that I would draw under this is like the biggest thing you can do as a young journalist is show up, show your face, don't get physical. But like it changes how you're going to write something. If you want to write something bad, you got to show up, and if you write something good, you show 100%. Up, because if you don't show your face, then you're just some guy behind a keyboard tossing grenades, right?
Yeah, very interesting. And I think I couldn't imagine, like at the Super Bowl, for instance, a guy from, one of the Chiefs, not this year, but recently,
basically, like if Andy Reid.
Right, like walking up to, I don't know, Terry Bradshaw or something, and just like wanting to fight him. That would be pretty funny.
That'd be funny. I'm not gonna lie.
If Andy Reid walked up to Terry Bradshaw and was wanting to fight him, but yeah, well, that'll wrap up this show for us this week. So thank you everyone for watching, and we will catch you again very soon.